Hi, my friends. My name is Ryan. Welcome to my life. Today I'm going to talk about working at the Renaissance Pleasure Fair. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to put up some video of some of the scenes that I was able to capture during my breaks or little snippets that I caught while working to give you guys a flavor of what it looked like, what it felt like. But obviously, the videos will not do it justice. The Renaissance Pleasure Fair is a place that you need to go to yourself to really understand what it is. In fact, I had gotten several of my friends in for free or for discounted tickets, and they said it completely blew away their expectations. Growing up in Southern California, they had heard about it. They had made many assumptions that it was just this event for nerds or weirdos, and they loved it, even though they didn't classify themselves as people who were into costumes or the Renaissance theme. So it's one of those things that no matter what you hear from me, you got to go there for yourself in order to really understand what it is. And not only that, you have to go there multiple times, because the Renaissance Pleasure Fair, there's bigger ones and smaller ones across the country. This original one that I worked at was large enough that even working there for 7 weekends, so a total of 14 days, I still didn't get to see everything. There's a lot of different shows. There's a lot of different food vendors. There's a lot of different shops. And there's all these little small things, these little nooks and cranny events that are occurring all the time, sometimes just happening spontaneously. That there's always so much to experience. So that's what this video is about. I will just talk freely about it. I guess I'll start with how I got the job. I should say before that I did have experience going as a patron being the customer of the Renaissance Fair. I had gone as a kid, as a 11, 12-year-old with my friends, and so I loved it. You can buy wooden swords, you can take fencing lessons, you can go on swings, you can eat turkey legs and giant pickles. The Renaissance Fair has changed a lot over the past, that's probably almost 30 years ago when I originally went. Then I went again as a teenager, and then again as a 19, 20-year-old, and ended up working just one weekend as a Queen's Guard with my cousin. And so that was my first experience. I didn't get paid, but I got free entrance, and I got a free costume as a Queen's Guard, the guys in red, where I got to carry the Queen and march in the parade. And they called me Yeoman Casanova because all I did was flirt with girls. Okay, so that was the past. Now, how did I get this job at the 2022 Renaissance Pleasure Fair, the original in Irwindale, California? Well, it all started with my best friend Paul, who you've seen in various series, either me running with him in the hills or talking about our European adventure trip in that video above. It all started when he sent me we send messages to each other every day, every couple of days, usually jokes, sometimes something serious, but talking about our lives. That's what best friends do, right? And he sends me an online flyer, a job advertisement that the Renaissance Pleasure Fair in Irwindale, California is hiring. And he says, you should work there. And I thought, well, why don't you work there? So I said, I'll do it if you do it. I'm the type of friend with Paul that I like to kind of instigate him. If you watch that episode where I sort of help push him across the lake, swimming across the Lake of Lucerne and stuff, that's kind of... sometimes I sense that he wants to do something, but he's not courageous enough to do it, or he's a little timid. So I sort of enticed him. So I said, well, I'll work the Renaissance Pleasure Fair if you do, even though I didn't really want to work it. I didn't think he would actually agree to do it. And he said, really? And as we sort of had a little banter back and forth, he agreed to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, Ryan, what did you get yourself into? I didn't think he would actually agree to do it. Well, I said, okay, pick me up tomorrow. Let's go. He says, I'll be there at 10. The next morning when we were scheduled to go to this job fair to see what if the Renaissance Fair would even hire us and what jobs were available. I was hoping when I woke up in the morning that he would have canceled. I didn't really picture myself as a 40-year-old man working at the Renaissance Fair. I didn't, it scared me, talk about my friend Paul. I mean, I was cowardly as well. And lo and behold, he didn't cancel. He picked me up. We drove to the job fair, and it was actually just the little office building with a couple seats outside, a few people there filling out applications, a few of the managers who oversee it. I thought it was going to be really large with the various guilds, the various food vendors and shops, all sort of hawking for different workers. But it was actually super small with just some of the core owners and head people who oversee the entire fair and a few job applicants. So we sit down, and they say, fill out these forms, basic application form, W-2, this kind of stuff. And they say, but we got to let you know, we're only hiring for sanitation and parking. Now, in my mind, even though I was a little afraid to work at the Renaissance Fair, my friend Paul was also very afraid, I would come to find out. I didn't imagine myself working in sanitation, picking up trash, or working in the parking lot. But my friend Paul was happy with it. I could see my friend Paul actually really did want to work at the Renaissance Fair. Because when they said sanitation and parking, that's the only option, I was like, I want to get the fuck out of here. I really don't want to do it. But my friend Paul wanted to do it anyways. And so now I was torn because I had promised my friend Paul that I would do it if he would do it. But now the only options are sanitation and parking. So I talked to the head woman. Her name's Kristen. She pretty much is one of the main bosses, one of the main owners of the entire thing. And I say, sanitation, parking, eh? And she goes, she gets kind of read my face. And she's like, you want a costume, don't you? And I said, well, I wouldn't turn one away if you had one. She's like, well, sanitation and parking aren't costume jobs, but are you sure? And she's like, I can't make you any promises. Let me go talk to someone. And so she leaves, and I'm looking at Paul. I'm like, dude, I really do not want to be in sanitation or parking. Imagine spending your day in a dirt parking lot, flagging cars in for minimum wage. Not my idea of my life for the next 7 weekends. Or sanitation. Imagine going around cleaning up porta potties or emptying trash. Not to say that that's not necessary work. It's very necessary. But it just wasn't something I wanted to do, Ask yourself, would you want to do it? But, so she brings this short blonde woman over whose name is Kirsten. So Kristen and Kirsten, a little confusing. And Kirsten, this little blonde woman who is the head of beverage. So there's a lot of different beverage stands, ale stands, soda stands, water stands, whatnot. She also runs a lot of the food vendors. And she says, you guys want to wear a costume, huh? Well, I kind of have a full staff, but are you sure? Are you up to working in food and beverage? Do you guys have experience? And I was just like, yes, anything. I'm not going to back out of this opportunity. Even if I would still do sanitation and parking just because I agreed to do it. And I wouldn't want to let my friend Paul down, even though everything inside of me is like, no, I do not want to do it. And Paul's like, I'll take whatever I can get. And I said, yes, I would love to work for you, food, beverage, inside the park with a costume. This would be my dream. Not my dream, but you know what I mean. So she ends up looking at some papers, and she says, okay, I'll give you guys a shot selling pretzels. I was like, okay, I've never sold pretzels. I haven't worked in food since I was a 15-year-old, but whatever. It beats sanitation and parking, at least in my imagination. So I'm going to work in that. And then Paul sees, oh my God, he's going to get a costume. And so Paul's like, can I do it too? And so Paul kind of jumped in. And so lo and behold, we signed our papers and we got hired to work as pretzel guys in the Renaissance Pleasure Fair for the next 7 weekends. We had to do a couple online courses, one about sexual harassment, that probably a lot of companies have to do. Then you have to take a test, and then we also had to do one about to get our beverage license in order to serve alcohol, something I guess required at least in California, maybe across other states, which was a bitch. I hated taking that test. It was like long, like hours of watching these slideshows, and then I had to answer all of these questions. I almost wanted to quit just taking the test. I'm like, is this going to even be worth it? What am I doing? I kept questioning myself. I'm 40 years old. I'm going to go sell pretzels. And I guess she wanted us to get this license to sell alcohol because she also had some wiggle room on us, not just doing pretzels, but also perhaps working and selling some beers. So anyways, I was really doubting this whole process. The whole time after we had signed all these papers and taking these courses, I was like, I still, maybe it was fear, fear of something new. Maybe it was just my imagination. A lot of times we build things up to be worse than what they actually are, or we think something's going to be terrible and it ends up being fantastic, Some of us have imaginations that go that way. Probably a lot of us. And anyways, I did it. I didn't want to be the guy who backed out. If I sign up for something, I'm going to do it. And so we ended up going one day early to get fitted for costumes. They didn't really have much, but I got a costume that I was very comfortable in, a very extremely low cleavage line showing my chest, almost exactly like this. So very comfortable for me, and we got to kind of walk around the fair before any customers got to go in the day before fair started. So really got our jobs at the very last minute. And not only was it cool to get this job, so we were successful, but we got a job with a costume, which when we had arrived, they were literally saying you can only work sanitation or parking. And so we got a job, but we got a costume, and we would be in the fair dressed in our Renaissance attire. So success, right? So the next morning is opening day. So we arrive an hour early to get trained by a guy named Dick. His name's Richard, but he goes by the name Dick. Last name Wood, Dick Wood. That's really his name, okay? Walks around with a backpack that says hentai on the back, which means pervert. Has a hot girlfriend, even though he's, not. Anyways, very interesting characters. Okay, guys. If I'm not trying to disparage anyone, but the colors of the personality and the appearance of so many people there, it was just phenomenally fascinating. If I could say one reason to go to the Renaissance Fair is for people watching, or personality meeting, the various cast of characters that you meet in your life, perhaps in your daily routine, you meet a lot of different characters, but at the Renaissance Fair, it attracts workers and patrons from all over that are so different, people who come from desert communities, people who come from Beverly Hills, people who come from all over. Very interesting place. And as my coworkers were fascinating as well. So we go through this training process. It's me, my friend Paul, and a 15-year-old boy named Ryan, red-haired, ginger, very light skin, hilarious. Maybe I'll talk about him a little bit later. I got to know him a lot. Very, very funny cat. And we end up training, but the training is just disastrous. Dick Wood, sort of this big, hefty guy, just sort of moles around and talks about the old days, and we get almost nothing done before the fair starts, and just barely get the cart together with some propane and a box of pretzels, and he tells my friend Paul, okay, it's opening, start it. And my friend Paul has no idea how long to cook the pretzels, how to do the salt or anything like that, so he's just sort of thrown to the wolves because Dick's training program, although it's not necessarily his fault, some things just weren't prepared. I want to say this, you work for some companies and the organization is so tight their training program's so rigorous that you're thoroughly prepared for any eventuality. You work for some companies and it's just like, it's chaos. You have no idea. You got to figure it out along as you go. Everyone did their best job, but maybe it's just the nature of Renaissance Faire or the nature of personalities that work in this business, but it's not very corporate. It's very relaxed, very chill, which was perfect for my personality. So I always did appreciate Dick. Despite sort of being thrown to the wolves, I kind of do like having a little less direction and being able to do it my way. So Paul starts working on pretzel 1 and I go to pretzel 2 and yada, yada, yada. That's how it all began. I will say this, serving pretzels was a trick to work out, how to get all of them warm enough, how to manage the heat, how to manage the propane, when to change the propane, how to break up the pretzels, how to salt it, how to get the salt to stick, how to manage making the pretzels while also dealing with the money, and it was kind of fun. It was challenging but fun. So that's the job, and in the next episode, I'm going to talk about the people and some of the experience. Thank you for watching. My name is Ryan.